Crazy dating pool. Why am I attracting these women? I'm 38, single, with no kids and an average job. Honestly, my dating life feels like a puzzle I can't solve. The only women who show interest in me seem to come with serious, undisclosed issues. Things that should probably be mentioned early on. For example, I went on a first date with a woman who seemed perfectly normal over the phone. We met at an arcade and everything was fine, until she suddenly had a seizure while we were playing a game. It was chaotic, and I found myself surrounded by strangers asking questions about her medical history. After things settled, she casually told me she has seizures all the time. That left me feeling uneasy, and I ended the date shortly after. Another time, I met a woman who only posted face pictures. I should have asked for full body shots, but when we met, she was almost twice my size. During dinner, I stepped away for just a few minutes, and when I returned, she was trying to take food off my plate. I jokingly asked if she was taking my food, and she flipped out, insisting she could buy her own. The whole situation felt uncomfortable. Then there was a woman who seemed amazing at first, but later mentioned she has cancer. That's not a deal breaker, but it's definitely not something you expect to hear weeks into getting to know someone. Now, I feel pressured to keep talking to her, and she makes jokes about it that feel a bit too casual. It's like that information is being used against me in some way. Back in 2023, I connected with a woman who checked almost every box for me. She was beautiful, intelligent, and emotionally grounded. We talked for a couple of months, but the reason we never met wasn't distance. She told me up front that she was HIV positive. I respected her honesty, but I eventually had to admit to myself that it scared me. I didn't want to waste her time pretending I could fully commit. Even when I meet someone who feels aligned, there always seems to be something heavy attached. I just don't understand it. IATA for refusing to tell the men in my family about my period. Growing up, my dad insisted that I had to inform him and my brother each month when I got my period. I was just 11 when it started, and his reasoning was that as men, they needed to know when I might be more hormonal. When I pushed back, expressing my right to privacy, he was adamant that it was his right as my father to know. I didn't follow up on it, but I was lectured several times. This was many years ago, yet the issue lingers. My mom still thinks it's courteous and kind to share this information. I, however, believe it was an invasion of my privacy. My dad continues to feel entitled to know. So, am I wrong for refusing to tell the men in my household whenever I have my period? To clarify, I was raised very religiously, specifically in a Christian household. My mom says my dad's intent was to be kinder to me during that emotional time, but I believe he should have just been kind in general. Ironically, my brother was probably more emotional than I was at that age. Some have suggested my dad was concerned about me being pregnant, but that was never an issue for me. I didn't date until college and had my first kiss in my 20s, which my parents were aware of. I also want to mention that my brother was completely innocent in all of this. He had no idea these conversations were happening. Now, as an adult and married, I do communicate my cycle with my husband, but he has never demanded that information or claimed any rights over my body. It was my choice to be open with him. Beyond being a mortified 11-year-old, my biggest issue with my dad was the need for privacy and autonomy. AITA for not wanting our friend to ever come back to our house after he ate literally everything we owned. My husband and I live abroad, and earlier this year, a mutual acquaintance, let's call him K, reached out to us. He had been scammed with an apartment rental and had nowhere to stay. Initially, we offered him a weekend, but he was polite, helped around the house, and seemed genuinely grateful. So we ended up letting him stay for the full 20 days he asked for. During that time, some things began to bother us. He never bought groceries, and often pretended he was going to pay, but would forget his wallet, or say he could only use Apple Pay, which wasn't accepted at our local supermarket. He ate far more than his share. Once, my husband and I shared half a pizza while he polished off another pizza and a half without contributing. We let it slide because we felt bad for him. A few months later, we planned a 17-day trip. Since he was struggling with rent, we offered him to stay at our place in exchange for taking care of our dog. I even created a Google Doc with instructions for the house, dog care, gym access, and more. I told him he could eat anything that was going to expire. Fruit, veggies, yogurt, you name it. When we returned, everything was gone. I mean everything. The entire fridge, freezer, and pantry were empty. He finished jars of jam, a giant bottle of olive oil, condiments, rice, snacks, cheese, and even my husband's supplements. It felt like he consumed things that usually last us 6 months in just 2 weeks. I honestly suspect he might have taken some items with him, because it's hard to believe so much was missing. I didn't confront him directly, except to ask him to replace the pan he had destroyed. He mocked me, saying, "It's just a pan. Why are you making it a big deal?" I felt deeply disrespected. Now, he keeps texting me, acting like nothing happened, and wants to hang out. I told my husband I don't want him in our home ever again. My husband thinks I'm being too harsh, that if Kay wants to stay friends, that's his choice. But I feel completely taken advantage of and disrespected. So am I wrong for not wanting to see this guy ever again and refusing to let him come back to our house?
Husband cheated on me with his fit and skinny gym friend. I came home from work early, and as an OB nurse, my hours can be unpredictable. When I found female sneakers in the garage that weren't mine, a sinking feeling settled in. My husband had recently become very fit and had been spending a lot of time at the gym. He even brought this beautiful thin friend home for dinner last week. I felt horrible about myself. I talked to him about it, and he encouraged me to build my confidence, assuring me he loved me and would always be loyal. But when I walked into the laundry room and tiptoed around the house, I discovered them having sex in our bed. A framed picture from our wedding hung above the nightstand. I silently left the room, tears streaming down my face. I got back in my car, drove to get food, and just sat there crying. It's now almost 1 a.m. I walked in on them at 7 p.m., and I've returned to the hospital. When he called, asking why I wasn't home, I told him my shift was extended. In reality, I'm lying in one of the on-call rooms, feeling utterly broken. I feel worthless, ugly, and stupid. I don't even know how to proceed. Part of me wants to divorce him and never see him again, but another part feels trapped in my own insecurities. I just want to disappear. The self-loathing is overwhelming. I appreciate the support I've received, but I'm struggling. I know everyone thinks I should leave, but a marriage is more complex than a few words on a website. He was a good husband, and I can't help but feel at fault for neglecting myself. I don't know what I'll do next, but for now, I'm just trying to process everything.
I learned the full truth about my cousin's divorce, and my mom's reaction completely shattered me. My mom has been low contact with her oldest sister for about 2 to 3 years. They barely speak, and as a result, our families have drifted apart. Recently, my mom attended a celebration and ran into my cousin, who is the daughter of that sister. For context, my cousin is incredibly successful and independent. She owns a finance-related business, lives comfortably in a villa, travels abroad regularly, and her kids attend excellent schools. She doesn't rely on anyone to survive. That's when my mom discovered the truth about my cousin's marriage, and honestly, it was worse than I ever imagined. My cousin's husband had been having an affair, but it wasn't some distant secret. He brought his mistress into their home, into her safe space, without her ever realizing it. The scariest part? There were no obvious signs. He was always by her side, attentive and involved. His phone was never hidden. He was open, with no suspicious behavior. He played the devoted husband so well that my cousin never suspected a thing. At one point, they even traveled abroad together, and he brought the mistress on the same plane. My cousin had no idea. Imagine trusting your partner completely, while the person he's cheating with is literally sitting there too. Everything only came to light because the mistress's husband was a private investigator. When he became suspicious, he gathered concrete evidence, messages, movements, proof. The situation escalated so far that the police got involved, since cheating in marriage can be a crime in my country. If caught, You could face serious consequences. When my cousin found out, she acted immediately. She filed for divorce without hesitation. No public drama. No bargaining. No let's try again. She chose dignity and walked away. Instead of supporting her, my mom's reaction was, she shouldn't have divorced him so quickly. Men make mistakes. She already has kids. She should reconsider. I was stunned. This is the same woman who raised me to value independence and self-respect. The same woman who taught me to never tolerate disrespect, to never depend on a man, and to always choose myself. Yet when a woman does exactly that, after extreme betrayal and humiliation, my mom thinks she should go back? It made me realize something deeply unsettling. If this had been me, she would have told me the same thing. All those values suddenly feel conditional, as if they only apply until a woman is married, has children, or has too much to lose. I'm angry, disappointed, and honestly heartbroken. I don't know how to reconcile the woman who raised me with her reaction to this situation. I convinced my girlfriend to move to the other side of the world with me. Now, she's miserable, homesick, and our relationship is suffering. Is it time to convince her to go home? I'm from Spain, and she's Australian. We met in Australia, where we lived together for a year and a half. I worked while she studied. After she graduated, I encouraged her to move back to Europe with me because I was feeling homesick. She was excited and eager to try living abroad. Now, after a year in Spain, things have been really tough. She can't find work and struggles with the language barrier. Although she's learning Spanish, she still needs me to translate when she goes out. The past year has been filled with stress. We moved without much planning, faced complicated visa issues, and the job I came here for fell through at the last minute. The first 6 months were particularly rough, and there's been family drama that I won't get into. If I had known how hard this would be for her, I might have reconsidered the move. I've found a good job and am content, but she's struggling to make friends and feels demotivated by the job market. Watching her friends back home secure graduate jobs while she has little success weighs heavily on her. Most days she sits in our apartment feeling down, lacking the energy to meet new people. She often talks about feeling broke and wasting her life, which breaks my heart. I've offered to help financially, but that only triggers tears. She doesn't want to be dependent on me, especially since I'm already covering our rent. I've tried introducing her to my friends, but she wants to make her own. I worry she's in such a deep pit that she won't be able to climb out. I've insisted that if it's too much for her, we could move back to Australia. I've even told her I'd understand if she needed to go home alone while I figured out my own move. I have a highly skilled job and speak English, so relocating wouldn't be difficult for me. Yet, she insists she wants to make the most of living in Europe, and feels embarrassed about going home without succeeding here. I feel guilty for bringing her to a place where it's harder for her to find work and connect with people. It's cost us a lot of money and time. When we first discussed the move, she was excited about the new adventure, and I was eager to return home. We knew it would be challenging, but neither of us expected it to be this difficult. Looking back, I wish I had let her gain more work experience before moving here. I'm worried she'll grow to resent me the longer she stays, and I'm torn between pushing her to go home or continuing to support her and hoping things will improve.
I am absolutely over AA and the people that think I owe them the rest of my life. I've been sober for nearly 5 years now. My journey with alcohol began during my time in the military, and for about 8 years I drank heavily, nearly every day. I found myself on the brink of losing my husband and children, and that was my wake-up call. I was just done. I went to a 30-day inpatient treatment center across the country. It was a necessary change for me, and my family needed a break from the chaos I had created. During rehab, I attended AA meetings and felt that the program could help me when I returned home. So I committed to 90 meetings in 90 days, found a home group, and got a sponsor. For the first couple of years, I leaned heavily on the program. I credit it, along with the support of others, for helping me establish a new lifestyle. But then I started noticing some things that didn't sit right with me. In those meetings, I often heard how difficult it is to stay sober, how every day feels like a struggle. For me, when I was ready to stop drinking, I just did. I live my life without alcohol, yet I've had people tell me that if it isn't hard, I'm not doing it right. I've also seen newcomers told that if they're on any mind-altering substances, including mental health medication, they aren't truly sober. I find that notion not only wrong, but also irresponsible. It's nobody's business but mine, and it can be dangerous to suggest otherwise. It feels like some people have traded one addiction for another, relying on these meetings in ways that seem unhealthy. I've been told that I owe AA my life, and that I must dedicate myself to the program for the rest of my life to give back what was freely given to me. And I'm not supposed to take credit for my sobriety. That's all thanks to my higher power. Recently, a friend in the program had 3 people break into their house because they couldn't answer the phone while sick in bed. They accused my friend of being under the influence, and even contacted their parents, trying to get them removed from their service positions. I'm just so over the idea that I owe anything to anyone. I've given back, I've worked my program, and I'm sober. Yet I'm constantly told how to live my life, that I'm selfish for considering leaving the program, and that I'm not really sober because I take medication for clinical depression. Being off my medication isn't an option. I appreciate what AA has done for me, but I don't understand why that means I owe them my entire life. If I wanted my life to revolve around alcohol in any way, I would have kept drinking. At this point, I feel that constantly discussing my past does more harm than good.
Goodbye, little bro. I hope you found your peace. My little brother died by suicide a few weeks ago. Following his wishes, there will be no funeral. A friend suggested I write this out as a form of closure. So here it is. He was only 37 years old. We had been estranged for the last few years due to a miscommunication that was entirely my fault. I tried reaching out to him a few times, especially after discovering he had cancer. I don't know if he ever saw those messages. When I heard about his passing, my first reaction was a lack of surprise, followed by a profound grief that I don't know will ever leave me. I was 2 years older, right there with him through everything as we grew up. I remember it all, even the parts I've tried to forget. I hope he's found the peace that eluded him in life. While I wish he had made different choices, I understand he was true to himself in this decision. I grieve not only for his lost life, but for the options he should have had. That foundation was never established, and I am so sorry that this life failed you. I never got to tell you that you deserved so much better than the cards you were dealt. And now, for something completely uncharacteristic, I will not hold it quietly inside. I can almost feel my brother's mischievous grin as he takes out a chair, sitting back with a drink and popcorn in hand. Mother, this is where we stop pretending. If you're wondering how we got here, it starts with you. Every story about his pain begins with you. The worst thing that ever happened to him wasn't cancer or divorce. It was being born your son. May you one day feel, in full and sober clarity, exactly what you did to him. May you never again get to pretend you don't know. Rest in peace, bro. Can someone tell me what's wrong with my coworker before I lose it? There are so many instances I want to share, but this one really takes the cake. I'm a 31-year-old woman, and I know a problematic person when I see one. My coworker Amanda craves attention and seems unable to be happy for anyone else. She's always trying to fit in and be the cool girl. Recently we had a few new hires, and one of the girls, Sarah, is pregnant. She's only in her first trimester, so her bump isn't noticeable yet. I honestly didn't know she was expecting until my friend Jess accidentally let it slip. When I found out, I told Jess that Amanda couldn't know about Sarah's pregnancy, at least not yet. I was worried she'd either try to get pregnant herself or convince herself she was. This week, Sarah mentioned she was tired of hiding her bump because her clothes felt suffocating. The very next day, Amanda approached me at my desk asking what she could use for nausea. My instincts kicked in, and I suggested maybe Pepto-Bismol or chewing gum. Then she mentioned she hadn't eaten all morning because she felt so nauseous. I jokingly asked if she thought she might be pregnant. She quickly dismissed it, saying, "No, not at all." But then 2 days later, I received a message from Jess. "Amanda thinks she's pregnant." I couldn't help but laugh, because of course she does. This is just typical Amanda. Jess is buying a house with her fiancé, and suddenly Amanda is nagging about it. Now she feels the need to start buying furniture for a home she doesn't even have, because her boyfriend told her he wants to get married this year. This is the same guy who doesn't own a home, and was using Amanda to pay his bills while he was unemployed for a year. How do I know? He told her. Amanda often complains about having to beg for intimacy because it's been months since they've been close. There are so many more instances, but I can't type them all out. Honestly, I'm avoiding her now because her behavior is just so distasteful. What do you even call this kind of behavior?
My boyfriend keeps falling asleep on the couch with his friend staying with us, and it's bothering me. I'm 23, and my boyfriend is 27. We've been together for 3 years, and right now, one of his friends, who is 24, is temporarily staying with us because she doesn't have stable housing. I want to be clear, I have no issues with her. She's been respectful and grateful, and she's not doing anything inappropriate. She's sleeping on our pull-out couch since we don't have a spare room. The problem is my boyfriend. Lately, after we all get home, eat together, and watch TV in the living room, he keeps falling asleep on the couch while she's on the pull-out. They're not cuddling or touching, they're just sitting separately. But when I try to wake him up to come to bed, he gets annoyed and tells me to leave him alone. This has happened multiple times now. I genuinely don't think anything romantic is going on between them, but I don't like him sleeping in the living room with another person there. I struggle to fall asleep without him beside me, and it makes me feel dismissed when he snaps at me for trying to get him to come to bed. I feel awkward bringing this up, because I don't want to sound jealous or controlling, especially since she's in a vulnerable situation and hasn't done anything wrong. How can I talk to him about this without it turning into an argument or sounding accusatory? To clarify, this behavior is new. We never really used the living room before she arrived. We used to eat and watch TV in our room. Now, to include her, we all eat in the living room together. I think he's just gotten into the habit of falling asleep right after eating, but I still wish he would come to bed with me. I plan on having an adult conversation with him about how it feels inappropriate for him to sleep out there, and that she needs some privacy. I just want him to understand where I'm coming from, without making it about accusations or jealousy. My girlfriend nearly drowned because she was starving herself to look better for me. I don't know where to begin, but I need to share this. Last week, my girlfriend and I were at my parents' place, just hanging out. She was relaxing in the pool while I played with the dogs. I stepped inside for a moment to grab a drink, and when I came back out, she was underwater. I jumped in and pulled her out. She was unresponsive. I performed CPR and mouth-to-mouth, terrified that I might lose her. When she finally gasped for air, she started throwing up water, shaking and crying. I've never felt that kind of fear before. A few hours later, in the ER, she was stabilized. When I saw her, she didn't even know what had happened. I told her she had cried and thanked me for saving her life. I asked what happened, and she simply said she felt dizzy. The next day, after she was discharged, I tried to get more information. I asked if she had eaten anything that day. I already knew she had been skipping meals for a while. At first she lied, but then admitted she hadn't eaten in about 5 days. She wanted to look good in a bikini for an upcoming trip, and didn't think she would pass out. I lost it. I yelled at her and called her foolish. I regret that so much. I apologized later, but in that moment, I was just overwhelmed with anger and fear. She cried and said she was sorry, explaining that she felt fat and didn't want me to be disgusted by her. That broke my heart. I see her naked almost every day. I love her body. We have a great relationship, and I've never given her a reason to feel insecure. I knew she wasn't eating much, but I didn't realize she was starving herself. She was already slim when we met, but now she's even smaller and still feels fat. I'm just so upset with myself. I love her deeply. She means everything to me. She's the kindest, sweetest, most amazing person I've ever known. I tell her I love her all the time, Yet she still felt the need to change herself for me. I guess I stopped telling her she's beautiful because I thought she already knew. Everyone tells her that. We haven't really talked about it since, but I know we need to. I just don't know how to start that conversation. I finally talked to her, and she admitted she's been struggling with eating for a long time. She told me that whenever we go out or have a date and she eats more, she punishes herself by starving for the next few days. That hit me hard. I always thought she enjoyed those moments, but now I realize she's been suffering afterward. I suggested treatment, and while she's scared, she wants to get better. I don't know where to start, but I promised her we'll figure it out together.